Good afternoon. Thank you to our media partners for helping share important information with Calgarians. Sorry, we're just waiting on the teleprompt. I want you to know today that our American Sign Language interpreters are not available, and we'd like to apologize for this disruption in service. They will be back for tomorrow's live stream. Today, you'll be hearing from Mayor Jody Gondek, Calgary Municipal Energy Emergency Agency Chief Sue Henry, General Manager of Infrastructure Services Michael Thompson, and Director of Capital Priorities and Investments Francois Bouchard. Our speakers will provide updates and we'll open up to questions from the media. We ask that the questions remain focused on the water main and that you limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. With that, I'll turn things over to the Mayor.
Thanks very much, Chris. Oki, Dada Nastada, Ambawastich, Tansei, and good afternoon, everyone. With the construction phase of the feeder main repair done and paving work underway today, we have now turned work quickly to the step that has been long awaited, restoring water service. That work includes 4 steps: fill, flush, test, and stabilize. The filling of the 2-meter wide pipe begins early this evening, and it could last between a day to a day and a half or 2 days. As the pipe is filled and brought up to capacity, it will be monitored closely to make sure that nothing is going awry. Then the flushing of the pipe will likely begin on Friday to remove any debris or other substances and allow for clean water to flow through the feeder main. Lab testing of the clean water is next, and it's anticipated that that will happen on the weekend. And then the feeder main will be brought back into operation with regular pressure slowly being restored, easing into stabilizing the system. Now, if every step of what I have just outlined goes according to plan, it is possible that we could have water service restored by the 1st of July. And at that time, we could be looking at easing the indoor water reductions that we have asked you to employ and that you've become so good at. But we're not there yet. So let me stress this. Every step of this water restoration process gives us more information about what's happening, what's going well, and where we may be seeing some issues. These next few days are going to be critical to making sure that we provide you with updates about what we are observing as the water begins to flow. And in that manner, we can get the Bears Paw feeder main moving forward in a safe and certain manner. If there are any problems in any of those 4 steps, for example, if the water testing comes back and says we are not good to go yet, or if we have any issues in stabilizing the system, it could be more days. That's why it's so important to continue to use less water every day as you have been until we know for sure that we have the all clear. The last few days have been a bit concerning as we have watched water usage creeping up. Yesterday, we used 471 million liters of water, and that is an upward trend that we have been seeing. It is approaching the threshold that puts safety measures at risk, like folks who need access to water in hospital or emergency life-saving through the Calgary Fire Department. So I know that we can see the finish line, it's close, but we still have more work to do, and we'll provide you with all the updates we can about how everything is going. And as I've said before, I know that we have asked you to do a great deal, and you have done tremendous work in saving water. I would encourage you to please keep this up until we can tell you that we are ready for our system to be fully restored, and then you can ease up on those restrictions that we've had to put in place. I'm now going to turn things over to Calgary Emergency Management Agency Chief Sue Henry, who will also bring you some news about Canada Day fireworks.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I want to start off by again expressing my gratitude to everyone who has made changes in their everyday routine to help us conserve water. I know there is fatigue, and we all want to get back to our regular water use, but we need to stay vigilant for just a little bit longer. We are still days away from our earliest timeline. As mentioned yesterday, we are now entering a critical phase of the water restoration. Tonight, crews will complete the backfilling work and begin paving 16th Avenue in hopes of reopening the road. Crews will then be moving on to the filling and flushing stage, which GM Thompson will provide more information on today. As we move through these phases, it will be imperative that we continue to conserve water. We are not done yet. We've heard from many of you about the small ways that you are conserving water. from drinking bottled water to using paper plates. This may be especially important as you plan your July long weekend celebrations. Not only will you save water, but there will be far fewer dishes to clean up, giving you more time to enjoy the long weekend. As mentioned yesterday, as we move from 16th Avenue work, and that work shifts our location to Edworthy Park, starting on Friday, crews will be flushing the water feeder main and conducting water quality testing to ensure our drinking water remains clean and safe and the structural integrity of the pipe is not further compromised. As we move into this phase, we will require some new closures of pathways and a parking lot in Edworthy Park. Starting Thursday night, the north parking lot at Edworthy Park near Bonas Road will be closed. This closure will remain in place until further notice. During this time, the south parking lot will remain open. This is the lot that's accessible from Bow Trail and Edworthy Street southwest. As a result, we do anticipate a high volume of traffic at the south parking lot for the Canada Day long weekend. So please plan accordingly when visiting this park, including carpooling if possible, or considering cycling, scooting, or walking to the park instead of driving. Also, starting Thursday night, some sections of the Bow River pathway near Edworthy Park will be closed, including near Angels Cafe and the north parking lot. Beyond these parking lot and pathway detours, Edworthy Park and Angels Cafe remain open. We are just asking users to use caution and follow signage throughout the area. Some additional parking locations also include Shoaldice Park to use as another access point for Edworthy. This work will also have some impact on our river users as it involves releasing large volumes of dechlorinated water into the Bow River near Edworthy Park. This work is expected to take 1 to 4 days to complete, and during this time, the river will remain safe for floating and boating, but for the safety of users, we ask that you stay off of the north shoreline of Edworthy Park this long weekend. Keep an eye out for signage on what is allowed, and please check the website closer to the weekend as you plan your activities. Yesterday, we provided an update on plans for Stampede, and today I'd like to give you the same for Canada Day, which is right around the corner. We've been hearing from many of you who are concerned that Canada Day events will be canceled. We know you've given up a lot of luxuries over these last few weeks, and we know that our Canada Day festivities are an important part of celebrating who we are. While we always had planned to go ahead with daytime programming that didn't drive any additional water use, after much planning, we can confirm the evening fireworks will proceed as scheduled. I want to stress that we still have an active fire ban in place, and we've asked you to help us avoid any extra risk of fire given our water supply. Under the current fire ban, fireworks are allowed on a case-by-case basis, and we've had extensive conversations with the Calgary Fire Department about the risk of fireworks. Our partners at the Calgary Stampede have made sure that our show can go on by offering on-site safety oversight, continued collaboration with the Calgary Fire Department, and all necessary safety measures and access to non-potable water sources. We have decades of experience setting off fireworks at Stampede Park, and Calgary Fire will be in attendance, as they always are, for any issues that arise to help handle them quickly. Stampede Park has little to no ignitable material in the fallout area, with no long grasses and metal roofs on all of the structures nearby. We also have additional contingency plans in place. This includes having pumps and hoses pre-strung to non-potable water sources. The safety of our community is always priority when we're planning any event, and Canada Day is no exception. With these safety plans well in place, we are confident we can move ahead with the celebrations in a manner that will not put our water supply in jeopardy. For Canada Day, there is a lot of fun planned at many different locations for July 1st. There's a whole day of free, family-friendly performances and activities that highlight our country's diversity starting at 11 a.m. At the Confluence, formerly Fort Calgary, you'll enjoy an Indigenous showcase and powwow, engage in cultural activities, and watch the main stage show featuring headliner Keys and Crates. At St. Patrick's Island, you will be immersed in live performances across 3 stages with face painting, picnic areas, and playgrounds for the whole family. At Olympic Plaza, you can check out the children's art and sports activities while listening to live music. And at the Municipal Building, you can explore an Indigenous digital art exhibit and enjoy multicultural performances. And for the fireworks finale, the day will be capped off with a spectacular show above Stampede Park, set to begin shortly after 11 p.m. You can watch the fireworks from the confluence or wherever you typically go to see Stampede fireworks, though on-site viewing at Stampede Park will not be available due to the setup of the 2024 Stampede. And please remember that vehicle access into Ramsey or Scotsman Hill will also be restricted, so please avoid heading there. You can plan your Canada Day visit by visiting calgary.ca/Canada Day. You'll find an event schedule, an interactive map, and information highlighting all of the performances and activities. For non-potable water distribution, today I can report that we've continued to see a huge uptake in our non-potable water pickup sites. So far, we've seen 1,250 people visit the sites and distributed over 65,000 liters to residents. Today, we opened a 7th location at the Bankside Day Use area in Fish Creek Park. This location is for both commercial and residential non-potable water distribution, so you can come fill up a container with some river water to take home to use on your garden, your lawns, and your plants. Starting today, we've also shifted the hours of all residential locations to 8 a.m. from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to better serve Calgarians who need that extra hour in the evening. Fill stations for our commercial vehicles remain 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and a list of all 7 locations is available at calgary.ca. For those that are visiting the site, remember the sites are busy, so please stay in your vehicle until it is your turn to fill up. Be aware of vehicle and foot traffic and practice safe lifting. Consider the container that you bring, and remember this water is not safe for drinking. We are also seeing a chance of rain tomorrow and Friday, which means you'll get some moisture in our yards and gardens, which is a good thing for those plants. For our bylaw statistics today, for those people not complying with water and fire restrictions, our bylaw officers are still out in the communities responding to calls, issuing warnings, and violation tickets. Bylaw officers have had 2,841 water misuse calls since June 6th that have resulted in 870 verbal warnings and 17 violation tickets. We have had a total of 230 calls for service regarding the fire ban, which have resulted in 28 written warnings and 89 verbal warnings, as well as 6 violation tickets. Our 311 team has taken 9,765 calls related to the water event, answering your questions and addressing any concerns that you may have. Thank you again for your patience and your understanding. Every small action you take makes a difference, and every drop of water counts. We continue to be committed to restoring our city water supply as quickly and safely as possible, and we're doing what we can to help you in the meantime. I will now pass it over to General Manager Michael Thompson to provide more details on what's next for the feeder main repair.
Good afternoon. If you're in the repair area today, you will notice significant progress in regard to the visible construction. Roadway paving is underway, and we are working to complete as much as possible tonight. Teams are starting to demobilize from the sites, which includes moving heavy equipment off of the sites, reinstalling adjacent infrastructure such as streetlights and guardrails which had been taken down, and we're starting to clean up the sites in preparation of reopening. The road will reopen in phases, starting at Repair Area 1, 16th Avenue Northeast and 46th Street. Repair Area 1 will open tomorrow, and Repair Area 2 will follow once the paving is completed. We'll know more information as we work through the paving this evening. The timeframes are weather dependent, and we need to stop paving activities tonight so that it doesn't impede our acoustical sensors which we have on the pipe, as we are going to start filling the pipe today, and we need to be listening to the infrastructure as we fill that pipe full of water. People may be wondering why we're backfilling the holes we dug before adding water back into the feeder main. Once the welding is complete on a pipe repair, the welds are tested to ensure they can hold pressure. From there, the pipe needs to be backfilled as a way to secure it before we can reintroduce water and begin the repressurization process.
Due to the need to backfill the pipe, we made the decision to begin paving quickly to ensure we are working towards reducing the construction impacts to businesses and residents as soon as possible. It's unlikely that any additional pipe breaks will happen at the locations where we had just made the repairs as a result of repressurizing the pipe. Once again, I'd like to thank our dedicated crews who are working around the clock to ensure these repairs are completed quickly and safely as we move closer toward returning the feeder main to service. We've seen some great examples of companies stepping up, and even some of our SEMA agency partners like ATCO providing welders to support the repair. This is one of the many great examples of industry supporting this response for Calgarians. Thanks again for your patience, support, and understanding throughout these repairs as we enter this next phase. As shared yesterday, we are pleased with the repair progress on the 5 hotspot locations, while also recognizing during this process that we've learned a lot about the condition of this pipe. These repairs are emergency in nature, and we know this pipe requires a medium and longer term rehabilitation plan, and we'll be sharing more information about that plan in the coming months. Though you'll see the work wrapping up on site, there's still a significant amount of work required. Due to the critical nature of this feeder main, it's important for us to return the pipe to service, and we're going to do this slowly and cautiously due to the risk of further breaks. Yesterday, Director Francois Bouchard provided a detailed update explaining we are now entering the filling, flushing, testing, and stabilization phases required to bring the pipe back into service. As you will notice from the timelines we share throughout this phase, if things are going according to schedule, we could be done earlier than expected. With the filling process starting tonight, the new best case scenario for easing indoor water saving measures could be July the 1st. However, this is if all steps go perfectly. And as mentioned previously, we're still managing a significant amount of risk as we move forward. We will continue to update the public on the timeline as we navigate the next steps. And I'd now like to welcome Francois Bouchard to provide an update on this important work.
Good afternoon. As I shared yesterday, we have 4 next steps to restore water to the system and make sure that the water quality meets or exceeds all regulatory standards and is clean and safe to drink. These steps are filling the feeder main, flushing the feeder main, testing the water, and stabilizing the system. These steps involve a series of pressure changes within our system, and that has the potential to create stresses on our pipes. This means that at each of these steps, there's a risk of additional breakage or setbacks. We are moving carefully and closely monitoring at every step of the way so that we can move quickly to address any issues. We anticipate that our first step, filling the feeder main, will begin tonight. To recap what this entails, we'll be opening valves and starting the flow of water from the Bears Paw water treatment plant into parts of the feeder main that is now empty. This is a 4.5 kilometer section of pipe and will take about 14 million liters of water to fill it. If all goes well, we expect the process will take 36 hours to 2 days. During this filling stage, the pipe will experience an increase in pressure. We're managing this risk by filling the pipe carefully and using acoustic monitors to listen for pings that could indicate further wire breaks. We're also using sensors that will detect any pressure spikes. In preparation for filling the feeder main, we have added some extra chlorine to the water at the Bears Paw treatment plant. This will help us effectively clean the pipe. People in the community of Bowness may notice an increase in the taste and smell of chlorine in their drinking water. I want to assure you that the water is safe for consumption. However, if you do want to remove the taste and smell, we recommend filling a container of water and keeping it in the fridge for drinking. Much of the chlorine will dissipate from the water in the jug after a few hours. And this change is also only temporary. Chlorine levels should be back to normal by the end of the long weekend. I'll have an update tomorrow on the progress of the filling and our next steps. I'd like to invite the mayor now to come back to this podium.
Thank you very much, Director Bouchard. It's great to hear that the 7 non-potable water stations, including the new one at the Bankside Day Use area at Fish Creek Park, are seeing a lot of use from residents as well as folks from the construction industry. More than 500,000 liters have been put to use responsibly, and if you need some more information on these sites, you can go to calgary.ca. You'll get a listing of where you can go to get that non-potable water. I'd also like to thank our partners at Calgary Stampede, as well as across the departments at the City of Calgary, for doing such a great job in making Canada Day a time for us to celebrate. With so many great activities planned, including nighttime fireworks, it is a day that holds something for everyone. Yesterday at Council, I proposed budget measures that will help to secure the safety of our water infrastructure. The Water Department will identify for us how to improve technology and monitoring for our water system, and Council will also be told about the maintenance and upgrades that are required over the next 2 years. We'll get better clarity on these costs. And the independent third-party incident review will help us create long-term change and ensure that we can improve the city's water system to 2030 and beyond. CAO David Duckworth has created a plan to put together this independent third-party review, and he will be presenting it next Wednesday at committee. These are all very important steps in making sure that our water system is safe and secure for years to come. And until we have the Bearspaw feeder main back up and running and our water network is fully restored, we need to keep conserving water by doing things that you have been doing, like turning off the tap when you are brushing your teeth, by keeping your showers a little bit shorter, and by making sure that you are running only full loads of laundry. You've also been collecting rainwater for your plants, and I encourage you to keep doing that. This is a Team Calgary effort. From the construction crews that have put the feeder main back together, to the water services teams that are making sure that the water that comes out of our taps is safe and that the entire system is secure, to all of us. The role that we all play in reducing demand on the system while it's getting back up to speed is a big one. I appreciate your efforts. Everything you have been doing has made a big difference in providing water to everyone across the city, even in this emergency. We will have more information on the progress of the restoration of the water network in Calgary tomorrow morning at 8:30 via live stream, and then again tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock right here at the Emergency Operations Center. I will now pass it along to Chris for any questions from the media.
Sean Polzer, Western Standard. In terms of the water restrictions, there was some confusion over whether or not car washes were allowed to operate. I noticed it was on the CBC this morning. So just some clarification. Can people wash their cars? How is the city managing to wash their vehicles?
So we have asked the car wash operators to close their car washes. We are also strongly encouraging all Calgarians to think about whether or not they need to wash their cars. We all have a role to play in terms of water conservation, and that's one way that Calgarians can play their part in terms of reducing water consumption.
Would they be subject to enforcement, the car washes?
So
I noticed I was in Bonus yesterday, the car wash was open, and I was kind of going, that's weird. You know, I thought maybe the bylaw was going to come up there and smack them with it.
So we have specific powers within the bylaws, and we're working within those powers in this situation.
Okay, and in terms of the July 1, assuming that there's a startup date and there's a lifting of the outdoor water restrictions, would that include like swimming pools and splash pools and maybe the indoor pools?
So we are looking at what will be the points in time when we can start easing water restrictions. I think it's a little early. Outdoor water restrictions would not be where we would ask or we would ease the water restrictions first. It would be easing indoor water consumption asks for conservation that we would start with. Residential swimming pools?
No, like you're saying, what about swimming pools, indoor swimming pools?
Right. So there are specific triggers where we will be able to communicate to the pool operators in terms of being able to meet their water demands and working with them to get them back into operation.
What would you say the riskiest time in the repressurizing of a pipe of this size? What would that be? Would it be going up to full pressure? Would it be within hours? What's the riskiest?
That's a great question. And the risk profile, every step that we've indicated comes with risk. And those risks are dependent on the pressures and the pressure variations that you could see. The early stages of filling and flushing have a risk, but have a lower risk of a failure in the system. As we start turning on our pumps at the Bears Paw water treatment plant is when we would start to see some of the higher risks coming into play, simply because we're bringing the system up to operating pressure, whereas before that, the system is not at operating pressure.
And what is normal operating pressure? I don't know if that's the speed of the water, or is it pounds per square inch? How would you describe it?
It is pounds per square inch. We typically articulate it in terms of meters of head, and that's 50 meters of head. And if I remember correctly, that's in the order of 70 psi, I think.
The City Conservative Rebel News. For the Mayor, what takeaways from this water main break made it to yesterday's strategic meeting of council? And why was this meeting held behind closed doors as opposed to a more transparent approach?
The meeting yesterday was a strategic meeting of council, and those are generally held as closed session items so we can have a fulsome discussion and robust debate on things that we are bringing forward to the public. In this particular case, we have made a commitment to get budget numbers out to the public sooner than we used to. We did this last year. We had numbers available in September, which was a full 2 months ahead of the usual schedule. We're striving to do that again this year. One of the biggest takeaways from yesterday is the amendment that I brought forward indicating that we were seeking the water services team to come forward and let us know what kind of a budget they need over the next 2 operating years for maintenance, for upgrades, and for any technology or monitoring improvements that are required to their network.
And, I reached out a couple days ago, but I've yet to receive a follow-up in regards to the Calgary treated water plants and processes. Are there any visible changes to the data provided on sampled tap water in the city? What specific changes or adjustments were made for both Glenmore, Bears Paw, both treatment plant operations and water treatment processes? And what explains the increased scent of chlorine in tap water that some residents outside of Bonus have been experiencing if no other changes were made to the treatment process?
I'll just start by saying that when we receive questions, we endeavor to get a response within the day. So we will have to go back and look at that question, and I will turn it to the experts about chlorination.
And thanks for the question. I'll say that all of Calgary's drinking water is safe to drink. We're constantly testing the drinking water, and the levels are within the acceptable parameters, and it's a safe drinking water system.
Are there any changes to that?
As you heard from Director Bouchard, we will be introducing more chlorination coming from the Bears Paw water treatment plant. Everything that we're introducing is within standards, and the water is safe to drink.
Good. Thanks for that. What effect has the situation had on the Glenmore reservoir size, and does this impact or change any operations? How, if it's the case?
The Glenmore Reservoir is currently being filled, and so it has not impacted the storage capacity at the Glenmore Reservoir or our filling procedures.
Good.
I have a question. I don't know if it's a Francois question or a Michael Thompson question. In the budget documents last year, it's mentioned underwater that there was critical maintenance work that was identified in terms of the system, and that work was needed to mitigate the risks. Can you tell me what that work was and what the risks were that were identified, if it has anything to do with this particular feeder?
So the statement that was provided within the plan and budget document was quite broad in terms of the risks that it was referring to, and included a variety of aspects of our operations. So it wasn't specific to this pipe.
Okay, and so the numbers that were identified in the budget 2 years of the budget cycle, does that adequately address those problems that were identified?
So I think that that's the question that council has asked us to come back with an answer for.
Thanks, guys. If there's any additional, you can reach out through media relations.